We mix our culture with the kingdom.
Yeah, man. This that new summertime anthem right here. This how we do for the kingdom.
Now we must swag down, boss down, let a minute get the devil out.
We mix our culture with the kingdom. We mix our culture with the kingdom. We mix our culture with the kingdom. Mix it. Mix it. Mix it. Mix it. We mix our culture with the kingdom. We mix our culture with the kingdom.
Yeah, made new, done with the old. I'm a walking lyrical scroll. No manuscript, this a godly script. I see she killed by...
Oh, I'm so excited to have you here. Come on, give me your stuff. All right. So listen, I'm gonna say, what time is it? You're gonna say motivation time. All right. So what time is it?
Motivation time.
What time is it?
Motivation time.
So listen, we're gonna bring my man Brad on. Come on, Brad. Let's go.
All right, let's do it. Everybody can hear me? Good. Okay. So, I was thinking about the fact that people literally stop working on things way too early. Way too early. They have a specific thing that they know is valuable, right? They know it could be like their gift or something that's going to, like, it could really pop off and be like this extravagant thing, but they just stop working on it too early. Like, the work seems too hard, or it seems like it's not going anywhere. So they quit. They quit early. So let me just give you a story about a situation like that. So there was a guy, and you might have actually heard the story before. There was a guy who bought a home because he heard in that area, in the backyard of that home, where there's a whole bunch of gold, right? So he went, bought the home, went to the backyard, day one, started digging, right? Just started digging, trying to get to the gold, digging every day, trying to get to the gold. And he actually, at some point, found a small piece of gold. And he's like, oh, all right, so I'm good. I'm in the right spot. So he's digging, trying to get more gold, trying to find more gold. But at some point, he was like, I'm not finding anything else. Like, I just got this small piece. Like, I'm not finding anything else. Like, maybe there really isn't anything here. Maybe I wasted all my money buying this house to put myself in this situation to get this little piece of gold that wasn't worth the investment. Like, I feel like I'm not getting the return on the investment that I believe that I should be getting. So he said, I'm going to keep on trying a little bit longer. So he kept on digging, but still couldn't find anything. He's finding rocks and gravel. He just remembers that, all right, I did find that one piece of gold, but maybe it's just not worth it. There's nothing else here. So eventually, he's like, yo, I quit. I give up. I can't do it no more. So he's like, I'm not digging no more. This house got to go. I'll sell it. I'll move someplace else, and maybe I'll try to do something else. So he sells the home, and another guy buys the home, and he knew that there was, they said that there was gold in that backyard. So he goes right into the same place that that other guy was digging, and he starts digging. Now, mind you, he's digging, but there's already this huge hole that was there from this other guy who was doing the work. Years on top of years, this guy was doing the work. He goes in, he's digging, and literally in a matter of days, he strikes gold. The biggest pieces of gold he's ever seen in his life. Overnight, it seemed like he was just like an overnight success, a millionaire because of all the gold that he found. What I'm telling you is, you have something that is special and something that is extremely valuable. And you're giving up when you're right there. You're literally a couple inches, a couple feet, a couple yards away from getting to that goal or that dream that you've had in your mind for years on top of years on top of years. And then you're going to let somebody else take your gold? You're going to let somebody else take your opportunity when it's literally a couple feet away from you? So close that you probably could see it, you could taste it right in front of your face. But somebody else will come along and they're willing to keep putting in the work, and they'll snatch away the gold that was actually meant for you. So literally, what I want you to understand right now is that I don't want you to have the crumbs or a slice of the pie. I want you to have the whole thing. It's all for you. There's a blessing out there that's literally, it was made just for you. And I don't want you to let somebody else come along and take that away from you. So literally what I do when I go to schools, and I have a little chant that I do with the kids, so hopefully y'all work with me, y'all do it with me. It's my I want it all chant, right? So what I'm going to say is I want, you're going to say it all. You're going to say I need, you're going to say it all. I'm going to say I can have, you're going to say it all. We on the same page? All right, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. We good? All right, here we go. Let's do it. I want, I need, I can have. Let's do it again. I want, I need, I can have. One more time, nice and loud. I want, I need, I can have. And from this day forward, you will never allow another person to come along and steal the gifts and the joy and the blessings that were literally made for you and only for you in life. You'll keep digging and you'll do the work that is necessary until you strike it rich. You hit gold, you hit oil, you hit diamonds, you get everything that this world was meant for you. The blessings that were only meant for you. Do not allow somebody to come along and steal the joy that was meant for you and your life and your family. So literally, from this day forward, you are going to make this blessing come true, and you're going to get everything that belongs to you in your life. Literally, my name is Brad, B. Rad Butler II, and I encourage every last one of you to make your next day your best day. Let's get into the culture.
All right. Come on, let's do one more time. One more. Yeah. That was nice. I was like, okay, you preaching. All right. Okay. So listen, we always actually attach a segment to this. So me being a host of this show, I asked more so, what's his name, Vaunt, to actually be a part of this. Most of the times when I'm hosting or I'm doing something, especially at church, when someone's talking to me in church, I'm really not listening to them because it's okay. I'll put it this way: you know how the church was high and you know had a good service and stuff like that. So after you're done, they were like, "Hey, Brother Bashir, I gotta talk to you. Do you know my daughter did this and she did this?" I'm like, "Oh, okay." But she's like, "Are you listening to me?" Yeah, I am. But the whole time I'm thinking about, okay, I'm hungry. I'm starving. I want to eat something. So the thing is, it's for me. This segment would be out of body experience. So. Vaughn, come on up. Y'all give Vaughn a hand real quick. Brad, come on up. So this is some of the thoughts that I have most of the time. Not with y'all, so I don't want y'all to think like it's like that. It's with y'all. But this is some of the thoughts I had with some of the guests that were on here. Not now, all right? So I want to be like, well, he talking about me. I ain't talking about you. All right, so listen. I'm gonna ask him how he's doing, stuff like that, All right. So, Brad, how you doing? What's going on with you?
Man, I'm doing all right. I'm feeling blessed, man. I had a lot going on this
Who
week.
does
but,
this man think he
listen,
is?
God is so
coming up in here with logo all over his shirt and his jacket. I know your name, Bruno.
How much stuff is going on? My sister, she messed around and got a flat tire on the way to
Did I
work.
unplug the toaster this morning?
That was crazy. And then she gonna call me talking about some.
Oh my God, this woman gonna tell me she wants 7 kids when we get married.
Down South Jersey. I can't be coming all the way up there, leaving work.
God.
Come on now.
I gotta go put gas in my car after this.
It's crazy, yeah.
Right, man? That's ridiculous, man. Let me tell you something.
Ridiculous.
Oh, man. I don't know what people be thinking
I
sometimes.
don't know either.
Oh, man. You did a phenomenal job up there, too. Man, and
What's
remember
for
how you was
dinner?
talking about how,
I could use me a real good grilled cheese sandwich right now.
dreams come true.
Oh my
and stuff like
goodness.
that. Let me tell you, man.
What is going on
I
in my
was driving,
stomach?
right?
Oh.
And then I
wow.
came up to a red light,
Wow.
and then I messed around and went right through that red
Wait, what
light.
time is
But
it?
the Lord didn't
What
let
time
me
is it?
get a ticket. I swear.
I gotta get out of
I'm
here.
serious. I'm like, I don't even know how to happen.
Is
These
he almost
blessings
done?
Okay,
keep
so
on coming.
thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, okay.
God
Oh, yeah,
bless you.
right. Yeah, okay.
Everybody give a hand for Brad. Thanks, Vaughn. Let's give a hand for Vaughn too, you guys. So, listen, that's not with you. Listen, I've had some people on, and I asked them to talk about what they do, and they went far left, and I'm like, okay, now I'm hungry, or I'm doing this, or did I cut the stove off? So, listen, it happens. I think it happens to all of us when somebody talking to you like, oh, yeah, I heard you. So, listen, we'll be back after this break. Yo, welcome to the show. back to the coach, you guys. Come on. Woo! All right, so this particular episode is a more sensitive one and a touchy one because this is the topic that we're going to talk about is really sensitive, especially in the churches, our communities, all our communities. So we chose this segment, or more so this episode, to be mental health. As we know that mental health is plaguing a lot, well, I would say mental health is good, but mental health is a bad thing, and it's plaguing a lot of our people that we see. You know, you walk up and down the street, you see people just actually having a conversation with themselves to the point where they know it's like they're not here. You know, so I invited some of my friends to actually be a part of this segment. Please give it up for Miss Sharia Jackson, CW Subs, Mr. Charles Sneed. Yeah. So when I contacted you guys, I knew that you guys have a background in this and you're experts in this field more so. I know that with mental health itself, more so, it can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing, you know, but it's more so the con of it that's really plaguing our communities more so, even the churches, you know. You see a lot of people saying that God said and God didn't say it, you know. So technically, it's their conscious saying it more so, God told me to marry this person, but he beats you. You know, or God told me to do this, and you know, but you know, you don't have no house no more. So and I won't say that's mental health, but it can actually lead into that because they do it so much. You know how somebody say, well, you lied to cover up another lie, to cover up another lie. That's a mental health issue, you know, because it's like you're convincing yourself that I'm greater than what I am. You know, so what is mental health? You know, can anyone answer?
Well, I don't think that mental health is any different than physical health. It's no different than your emotional health, your psychological health. So mental health is to me, it's nothing more than a form of health that deals with and speaks specifically to your mind. So what is it that your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors have to do as far as your mind and your mentality is concerned? And so it's no different than your physical health or your emotional health or any other form of health that you would attribute to.
Right. Anybody else?
Yeah, to piggyback on what Charles said, a lot of times in reference to there not being that much of a difference between mental health and other forms of health, if one of us if we break our arm, you know, we're quick to go to the ER to go ahead and get it fixed. Right. You know, if someone is having a heart attack, you know, we're quick to go and call 911 to get those issues resolved. You know, if somebody has asthma, they're quick to get an asthma pump. But when people have mental health issues, or there's mental illnesses, you know, because it's not always obvious, you know, they may not go and get the support that they need, especially because it's so looked down upon.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
I would have to agree 100% with what both gentlemen said. Mental health is just like your physical health. You should go to the doctor to get checked out to make sure you're good. A lot of people do not do that, though, because, as Tommy said, mental health is not something that is magnified, especially not in our culture and not in the church world. Yeah. So it's kind of like if I have something going on in my psyche, I don't think to go see somebody about it. It's more so a lot of times labeled as like a spiritual thing or a demonic thing, or so mental health gets, you know, downplayed a lot.
Right. So what are you guys' thoughts on? Because I never knew what ADHD was, you know, but we know what it is, you know, especially with the children, you know, that's around us, and you know, my son, you know, I used to think that he had ADHD. But this is what this was it. But you know, because you know, our culture, or I would say our African American culture, you know, it's like, no, I got him into shape, and he cool now, but he's still doing the same things, you know. So, what is your views on now how the medical field says that the child has ADHD? Because I never knew what it was until now. What are your views on that?
Well,
I told you, as you always know, this is really like touchy, you know, and really sensitive.
Yeah. Well, what there is, the good thing is that there are a lot of tests that are available, to go ahead and have children go through to go ahead and test for ADHD or ADD. Old school ways was to go ahead and get the switch and go ahead. I'm going to beat you.
I got right.
Until
I got right. I was misbehaving in school. I got right. She came up all the time.
Exactly.
Come down. I got right. I'm cool now.
Exactly.
I think. But go ahead.
Man, but I think it's also important for parents to pay attention to their children. A lot of times, with what I'm seeing in the world, in the community today, is that especially in urban communities, right, you're starting to see like there's that detachment. Right. So some of the things that may be causing the ADHD or the ADD may be things that's going on inside the family home because the family structure is not solid.
Wow.
So that's my take on it. That that there are definitely tests that are out there to go ahead and assess, a child to see what exactly they have, but also you want to look at the entire situation to see what could be contributing to this child's possible symptoms and diagnoses.
Right.
I think another, in times past in history, when ADHD and ADD were emerging, they were seen as behavioral issues because the individual who they would attach it to, they would be focusing so much on the behavior, but in more years to come, as far as research is coming out, they're seeing it more so as a neurodevelopment issue. And so now the target is less of the behavior and what the individual is doing as far as acting out, and more so towards what is going on as far as their brain activity is concerned, that's coming out as far as the hyperactivity, the lack of focus, not being able to sit still or not being able to really comply. It really is a big compliance issue as well. And so, there's more that's going on within the mind of the person. And really, it's like I always try to think of it as like if you put, I know like in younger years when I was in school in science projects, you put vinegar and like baking soda in the bottle, you shake it up, and so that's the same thing that's going on within inside the person. They're trying to figure out what the outlet is, and a lot of times it just comes out in their behaviors rather than, for a minute there they were doing well with the fidget spinners, but then they just banned fidget spinners in school because they made too much noise, but that was working perfectly fine for the individual who was experiencing ADHD, and they were getting in less trouble in school, and they were able to focus more, and they had something to take their hyperactivity out on. And so it's coming into the research now to where it's becoming more of a, like I said, neurodevelopment thing rather than a behavioral thing, which was why the medications are even changing from Ritalin, which was more so focusing on keeping the person really, to be honest with you, high. If I'm going to be honest, the person was high, which is why they weren't necessarily, behaviorally acting out anymore. But the medications now are diverging into the area to focus more so on balancing them within their brain activity.
Wow, that's good. That's a really good point. All right, so now when it comes to the church,
Talk about it.
well, because that's where we're in, here's my question. I've always said this. I actually was teasing my first lady. I don't know why they call first ladies, but anyway, like this is another lady. But anyway, it must be another one. But anyway, so I was teasing my first lady, and this lady at my church, I know her, so I can actually talk about it. But she was at my church, and she makes outbursts, and the outburst is like, "Come on!" But it's the way she does it. It's like something wrong, but you don't, because you just think it like, okay. When you start, because when I first started going into the church, I was like, okay, she praising God. And then she started doing it every Sunday. I said, no, something wrong, because that's not a good spirit. But the thing is, do you think that therapists should be at the altar as well as ministers?
I'm on this right here. Okay, so when I thought about this question, my first reaction was no.
Okay.
And that's because of tradition.
Right.
The way I was raised. Tradition says there's a time and a place for everything.
Right.
And the altar is not the time or the place for a therapist to come up and talk to you.
Absolutely.
But however, there's a need And the church is supposed to be the spiritual hospital. So if we're the spiritual hospital, every need should be met and catered to. If I go to the doctor with a broken foot, they're going to send me to a foot doctor to assess it and see what I need to do, get a cast, whatever. If I have a mental health issue and I'm at the altar and all you're doing is laying hands on me and speaking in tongues, that doesn't help me.
Wow.
At some point, I need some type of outlet. I need someone to talk to. I need somebody to actually give me some type of safety, some type of security, some type of relief.
Right.
Not knocking prayer. Love to pray.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, as a military veteran, there were times where prayer didn't do it for me. I had to go to a therapist.
Right,
You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right.
I had to go see a counselor.
Yeah.
As much as I love God, as much as I love my pastor, as much as I love my church, it just wasn't it. I needed something more.
Yeah. I don't think it's, I think when we say go to a therapist, a psychologist, when we say that word, especially in the African American community, it's like, what's wrong? And it doesn't have to be necessarily anything wrong. I just think that's a good place. I mean, they're expensive, very expensive, unless you just get on, a plan, I don't have the money for it, so can I, but I don't think that's a bad word. My father died not too long ago, and the thing was, I was going through some stuff, and I was acting out or whatever in church, and this lady was like, something wrong with you. First of all, my father just died. And I said, I'm really about to punch you in your lip. But the thing was, somebody else came up to me and said, you should see a psychologist. I said, for what? She's like, because you don't know what's going on with you. You're actually acting out. I said, I ain't crazy. That's the first thing I said. First thing I said, I ain't crazy. I'm not going to that. She said, but it's not the fact that you're crazy. It's just that it will actually help you rather than talk. Because what's going to happen is if you talk to your pastor, which is nothing wrong with that, he's going to say, well, the Bible says this. And you need a little more than, I'm not knocking the Bible, but sometimes I think all of us sometimes need a little more than just, God's going to do it. We know he's going to do that, but we're still here. So when somebody, go ahead.
I was going to just speak on a couple of things that you were talking about. One, I think that the main issue within Black and cultural communities is that seeing a psychologist, seeing a therapist is translated as telling somebody my business. And so that's one thing that we always shy away from is my kid's not going to talk to anybody because I don't want anybody to know our business. Right?
That's funny. But
then you're putting your child at your child or you in a worse predicament when it's your pride that has to get out of the way to see, what can I do about the situation as far as getting myself or my family well. I think a lot of times too when we hear as far as should therapists be at the church, I totally absolutely believe that they should. Because at the end of the day, though you're saved and though you're a saint and though you are X, Y, and Z, you're still a human, and you're still in this natural experience. And I think that one thing that the pastor and the church leaders can do is that they can definitely speak to the spiritual part of that person, but then that therapist is there to speak to that natural part, which is going to be a little bit more comprehensive of what I'm experiencing right now. And so thank you for praying for me and you spit on me and everything like that. But in the same time, I need to know what are these practical tools that I can take home and use on my day-to-day basis when the sermon is not working anymore, when my notes aren't even making sense to me anymore, when it's not speaking directly to my point. I think that sometimes we have to get out of that, like Sheree was saying, that traditionalism of what that looks like, because if we really look at the grand scheme of things, a lot of the church end up in bondage because we didn't talk. And so we have to be willing to what does that, and what does it even look like to break a generational curse? That's not always going to be done simply through prayer. What are the practical tools that I can take outside of here beyond your sermon and beyond the notes that I even got from that sermon and that conversation that we had after service over some fried chicken? God bless you.
It's funny that you said that. I was saying it's funny because you said most of us don't want people to know our business. Yeah. But on the contradicting part, it's like, I can hear somebody, I know someone who's like, they're like, no, I don't want nobody to know my business because if I tell them, they're going to go write notes and then tell a doctor I need to. But on the flip side of that, it's like you on the phone like, girl, he came in today and now that's going to be Juju's stepfather. It's kind of like, well, I heard everything you said, and then I'm like, man, can you calm down? No, you all in my business. You just told us, on the phone. So it's kind of like, okay, there's a contradicting part to that, but I understand what you're saying. We are really some private people, But at the same time, we want people to know we're here by saying certain things. So listen, we're going to go to a break real quick, and we'll be right back, all right? Welcome back to the Coaches, guys. All right, so we have, again, Sharia Jackson, T.W. Suggs, and Mr. Charles Sneed. So we're actually talking about mental health, and we left on some good points. Now, here's the next question for you guys in reference to that. So when it comes to, all right, I'll put it this way. When it comes to, you know who Robin Williams was, or so. A lot of people say, I won't even go there right now. I'll say in reference to, all right, for instance, and I won't talk about race too much because I don't want to get there that much, but I'll say that if somebody had murdered someone, or so, and I mean, they murdered like 9 people, massacre, boom, 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 and they arrested the person, they got the person. All of a sudden what comes out is something was mental wrong with them. What are your views on that? Because it could be both spiritual, demonically, or mental. So what are your views on the fact that, okay, now we're going to test him, we're going to make sure he's okay, just kind of hug him, not like the judge, but we're going to hug him, and make sure that, listen, you can't do that no more, but like, you can't kill 9 people, that's not good. What's wrong with it, So what's your views on that, So, anybody?
I would say my personal views on criminals of any sort is that at the very basic level, at the end of the day, it's a human being and they deserve to be rehabilitated. Yeah. So whether you murder 9 people or you steal a piece of candy from the store, you still need or deserve to be rehabilitated.
Well, when I stole a popsicle, I got a beating. Yeah. I ain't get no talk,
Yeah.
I'm joking.
But you very much could have gotten jail time for that.
I could have. Well, Mr. Sal, he didn't really care. He was like, he's like, you hungry, and I know your mom don't feed y'all right now, but because that was that was a little rumor around the block or whatever on 29th Street. Like this kid, she don't feed her kids.
Yeah. But I think that at the end of the day, it's a human being that deserves to be rehabilitated. And then what's happened if that person's not treated? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so it's extremely important that that a lot of times because we don't favor the act that the person gave into or that they engaged in, that we have, these different views on what should or should not happen to them. But I think that, at the end of the day, they deserve to be rehabilitated. And a lot of times what happens when it comes to individuals who murder or commit any sort of crime in that sort, it has to do with the motivation. So what was the motivation? And a lot of times motivations can be conditioned behavior. So then you have to think about what did they learn as a kid, what that was or was not okay, and who was really monitoring them, and who did they learn from, who did they model after. Right. And so, what were they exposed to? A lot of times what you'll learn in the stories of people who murder, they were bullied. They were the least likely. They had a horrible home life, a parent-child relationship. They were physically abused, and so there's a lot of things that contributes to the individual beyond the act and before the act. And so you have to look into the motivation and what caused that person to get to that point, to even becoming okay with playing this act out. And so at the end of the day, like I said, they're still a person and they deserve to be rehabilitated.
Right. Anybody else?
I would say that I definitely agree with that point that everyone deserves another chance. Right. There's some heinous crimes that have been committed, you know what I'm saying, by some, I believe, very sick mentally people. People are mentally sick.
Absolutely.
Yes, they are.
And the issue, as I stated before, is nobody addresses the fact that people are mentally sick. And that's why it gets to the point that it gets to.
Yeah.
I personally am not a big fan of like suspense and drama and all of that. I'm really a comic person. Like, give me laughter, okay? I don't want to be sad and crying. But I watched 13 Reasons Why because as a mental health specialist, as someone who cares about children and the youth of today and young adults and all of that jazz, I was like, let me check this out to see why some of these kids and adults
And
do
adults.
some of the things that
Yeah,
they do
yeah.
is very real. The series is very real. And in this, I want to say in the second season of the series, there was a young man, he was abused at school. And his motive was to go and shoot up the school because of what happened to him. What happened was mentally, he couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
It became a mental illness for him because there was nobody that he could trust, no one he could talk to. And this is what happens in everyday life. People go through these things as children.
Yeah.
A lot of people grow up with the same, dysfunctions and misbehaviors and things that have been ignored for years and years and years. And then when they go and blow up a building or shoot up something, then it's like, now we want to address the mental issue,
now
but
they
the
do.
mental issue was always there.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you see him burning roaches, like just burning them. Like, why you keep burning roaches? Because they in the house. But you burning all of them, you go burn. No.
Seriously though, you got kids.
I'm really serious. People that, and I'm not saying that, if you burn roaches, you're gonna go over and kill somebody.
Yeah.
But like, but like when you are little and you see something in a child that always want to burn out, Mr. Basha, I just want to burn a roach. Now that's a pigeon you burning. So like, do you just like burning up people?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you want to actually go and get that behavior right there. Like, hold up, we don't burn roaches. We just kill them. That's all.
I truly believe there are always warning signs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always.
Yes.
Whether we choose to acknowledge them or ignore them is our business, but
Right.
there are always warning signs.
Yes. So listen, when it comes to, all right, I'm gonna put this out there. My brother, and I can say this because my mom, she's like, I don't care, but because I asked her before, she's like, just don't say that and don't say this, because you ain't gonna have no show after this. But my brother, and how can I put it? So my brother, my twin, I have a twin, fraternal, and he had the doctors would call it a mental breakdown. He was dating this girl more so in high school, got his heart broken, and from there he went all the way down. He became all the way down. Certain dreams that he had, him and I would share, because I had a bunk bed and he was on the top. Like, what you gonna be? I said, I don't know. But the thing was, he would share certain things with me, and I hope I don't spook nobody out, okay? But the thing was, after he got dumped, there was something that was going on spiritually. And my mother, she's a praying woman, always prayed around the house and stuff like that. Still does. I was asleep. Well, I wasn't asleep, but I was awake trying to go to sleep, and my brother was on the top. And from there, from him being always sad and oppressed, he was always just saying, I'm just going to stay in the corner, I'm not going to go nowhere, and that's what he did. So there was something that I saw in the room, and it went up to him more so. And ever since that day, he wasn't himself afterwards. See, when you guys watch movies and stuff like that, and sometimes you may think that, oh, wow, how did they get this ghost there? And I don't believe in ghosts, but the thing was, it was, black people don't believe in ghosts. But the thing was, it was just more so when it came to what I saw. I told my mom, I said, I saw this thing, go to, Rashid. And she was like, what thing? And then she just, got the oil. I said, Ma, that's cooking oil. I don't care. I'm going to sanction it to God. And we just going to blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, we got cooking oil in the house. But she went around and started praying, But my brother was different, And then all of a sudden he went off. We ran in the street, he did some other stuff. He ran in the street and, stayed in the middle of the cars, hit me, I was like, oh my God, So my mom was like, okay, we got to take him to get 302. After he got 302, they said he had a mental breakdown. Something happened more so. I'm saying this because after that, I was telling my mom, I said, don't let them drug him so much. Because what's going to happen is, it's like, okay, now he's a part of us. And what's going to happen, they're going to actually stick him with all these medicines and stuff like that. And now he's never been right ever since. So my mom said, it's just, my brother was like, it's just depression, So my question is, do you think depression could be, I know, but do you think, I'm going to ask you because they meant that, but do you think depression could be a mental illness or a spiritual thing? Or could it be both?
I believe, my personal belief is that it can be both.
Okay.
I definitely see it as something. I can definitely see depression being something that can be like situational, and sometimes you know, like it's not something that's like pervasive. And then like situations turn, and then you're okay.
Right.
You know, but then you have something that's like pervasive clinical depression, right? But then I also do believe in the spiritual realm. You know, in reference to we're not fighting against flesh and blood, you know, but against principalities and all types of powers,
Right.
you know, and one of the places where the enemy attacks is the mind.
Yeah.
That is one of the places where he hits the hardest is the mind. And the thing is that people don't realize is that the enemy, he studies bloodlines. He studies bloodlines. He looks at your mother. He looks at your grandmother. He looks at your great-grandmother. And he starts to see. So certain things that you may see in you, or certain things you may see in your family, you know, it may be things that may have gone back generations, but when you're dealing with especially people of color, right. Because everything is hush hush and everything is quiet. There's a saying that says, "He who conceals his sickness cannot expect to be cured." Right. So when nobody's saying anything, you know, you have these generational cycles, you know, that may manifest in different ways that go unaddressed. Some of it may be because, you know, it may be something that's actual, like a chemical imbalance, you know, in the brain. But it could also be something that could be situational, but also we cannot negate the fact that there are things that are spiritual that can happen, that can cause, if you look at who was it? Saul. Saul was a spirit of depression, and a spirit of oppression was torment. It was a tormenting spirit that was tormenting Saul. So we can't. And before that time, Saul was okay. You know, but when that spirit came on, that's when everything went downhill. So yeah, it could be spiritual, and it can also be like a chemical imbalance, and also situational.
Wow.
I would absolutely agree. I think that, you know, not even minimized to mental illness, but I think that all illnesses have a spiritual context to them, whether it's physical or mental, so forth and so on. And I thoroughly believe that, you know, a lot of times what happens is, even if it's not the illness in and of itself, the effects of it can cause different spiritual damage as well. And if not treated properly, if not handled properly, if not properly attended to, you can derail, you know, and destruct tremendously. And so that's the importance of attention to whatever it is that you're experiencing. That's the importance of not just brushing over and negating the fact that, okay, maybe I am feeling some type of way today. And like, I think Tommy touched on something as well, as far as like the situational pieces of it. Sometimes it can be because of a breakup, or it can be because of a loss, or it can be because of an adjustment in my life. I had a job today, then I don't have a job tomorrow. You know, I had a girlfriend yesterday, or I was married today, and now I'm getting divorced next week, or, you know, whatever the case. I was in a car crash. These different things can definitely affect you in different ways. And sometimes we play them down as whatever the case may be, but I think these things are extremely important to pay attention to. And so I think it's really good that your family handled whatever it was that that your brother was experiencing, because not too many people are doing that.
This is true. It's true.
I'll just end with this. There's a saying that an idle mind is the devil's workshop. And one thing that people don't think about is everything starts in your mind. Everything starts in your mind. Before it becomes depression, it started up here. You had to ponder on something to make you sink into that place. And so while it is clinical, like for me, and I don't mind sharing who I am. Like I said, I'm a military veteran, so I go through phases of depression. It's not all the time. It comes and goes. I can be here with you right now, smiling and having a good time, and then in 2 seconds, I'm pissed off and I'm ready for you to leave me alone. It's just what I go through. But I know that there is a I know there's a spiritual part to that. And so what I have to do in the spiritual is I have to feed myself with proper nutrients. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't, and even in the natural, I tell people all the time, it's not always about on your knees, Hika Messiah, prayer. You know, sometimes a good song will lift you out of that space. And this is why you have to go to those who are equipped to help you. Because I've gone to counselors, and it's so simple. They'll tell me something like, just breathe deeply for 7 minutes. What? That's all I got to do. And I'll be all right. And I'm trying to tell you, without that little bit of advice, I would have just kept sinking.
Yeah.
You know, so it's very important to understand how your mind works. If I do not dwell on a thing, good or bad, it doesn't come to pass.
Wow.
If I dwell on smoking cigarettes, eventually I'm gonna start smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
If I dwell on being a millionaire, honey, I'm gonna make some money. You know what I'm saying? So it's all the mind is powerful.
Yeah.
It's very powerful.
Yes, it is.
I totally agree with what Sharia was saying as well. I think sometimes we kind of coping skills. If we can talk about coping skills and what that can do for you, I didn't even know, you know, and I think, well, Tommy, Sharia and I, we know each other. And so we've been extremely transparent in many conversations. And we've never been afraid to share, you know, our personal stories. But even prior to me getting into the field, it took me getting into the field to realize, like, oh, okay, so I was depressed. All right,
Yep,
so
yep.
this is a part of who I am, and it's okay, right? And even as a therapist, I think one of the things I tell my clients, and I'm very open and honest about it, like therapists see therapists, and they should.
I
If
agree.
I'm seeing 40 people a week and I'm hearing all your problems, I'm gonna go talk to somebody.
Right.
All right. And so
40.
therapists need to see therapists, and I have a therapist, and I can,
Yes.
you know, just and it's extremely important not to just, you know, to deal with your own stuff and to get yourself centered and aligned. But you know, once I realized that I also experienced depression, I thought it was extremely important for me to go seek help. And like something as simple as deep breathing for 7 minutes can change your entire life, because the first thing that does for you is get you back into control of what you're experiencing.
Right.
And the main issue, dysfunction, literally is nothing other than out of alignment. That's
Right.
exactly what it is, when something is out of alignment. And so depression is an experience of dysfunction. And so when you can breathe deeply for 7 minutes and focus enough on that, you can bring yourself back into alignment and get back into control of your experience. And so that doesn't mean the depression goes away, but your ability to manage it becomes
Right.
better. And so that's the whole point of it.
Wow, that's awesome. So listen, we're going to take a break real quick, and we're going to come back with another set of people in reference to this mental health issue. All right, so listen, y'all give it up for Sharia Jackson, T.W. Suggs, and Mr. Carlson. Yeah. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Coach You guys. Come on, give yourself a hand. So we're here with another set of another group of people that actually go through more so mental health in reference to teaching and actually being through it. So we have Mr. Will Attore and Mr. Robert Witten and Mr. Von Lee. Come on, give yourself. So. To actually finish that off, to continue with it, more so continue. I'm sorry. When it comes to mental health, I can't really mention too many celebrities, but I'll mention Robert Williams. I was going to mention to them, but I want to save it for you guys. Robert Williams, as you already know, he's an actor, but he took his life. Some would say that he had mental issues. There were some things going on, and as we did talk about depression. In reference to you dealing with, I know that's your background.
Yes.
If you could have saved him, because that's what they said. I guess the autopsy said that there was some, not autopsy, but his family would say that there was some mental things going on in reference to him, but nobody knew. Because, people can make people laugh all day long, but for some reason, when they're home by themselves, it's a lot going on, because my mother always said a clown cries the most, because they don't, they're making people laugh just to actually please themselves. So what would you have said to Robin if, before he did what he did?
Sure. I think, first off, that's not an easy thing to tackle.
Right.
Someone that you care about who maybe is demonstrating some signs of mental illness. Mm-hmm. It's not the easiest thing to go to that person. I don't know if you ever know anybody who's been addicted to anything, like even alcohol.
Yeah.
I have experience talking to someone who I care about their alcohol addiction.
Right.
It got very ugly. So initially, I feel like there's already that barrier up that a lot of people don't want to try to push through. But what I would have tried to say to Robert Williams, I think I would have just done my best to extend myself to him and show him that somebody is there to listen.
Right.
And then once you hear certain things, that's when you have to have the courage to step up, and you can't look to somebody else
Right.
in that moment. It's happening in front of you for a reason. So many people, I think we just naturally push things away from us,
Right.
because it doesn't feel good or it's not convenient.
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with an issue like such, all that has to go out the window, and you have to understand that in that moment when a person is saying certain things or showing you certain things, like, you have a responsibility.
Right.
And I think that's the piece that's missing, is we don't feel like there's a responsibility from one man to the next. And it's like, oh, his would be all right, or, that's his battle.
Right.
And once we're able to kind of like see that we all are, like, we're in this together, we're truthfully in this together, then certain situations like that, maybe they can be, avoided.
Right. Well, I was when I was looking up some things in reference to him, he did make a lot of people laugh. It made me laugh. And what's it, Mr. Doubtfire and some other things. And talented man. And a lot of people put this stigma on people like that, more so that actually off themselves, like, oh my gosh, he had a mental issue, when not knowing that we ourselves have some mental issues, going on.
Very true.
Very, very true. When it comes to, okay, so I'm gonna give you a scenario, which is really a true scenario. I was on Walnut Street, and Jill Scott was walking on the other side. Well, she's walking down, more so, on Walnut Street. And I was like, oh my gosh, Jill Scott, whatever. She's like, hi, baby, like that. So I was young. I was real young. She had on glasses or whatever, and that wrap, that thing, whatever. But she had on that or whatever. And I was like, hey, oh my God, Jill Scott. She's like, calm down. I was like, okay. But, I was like, oh my God. So there was a man that was walking across the street. He was like, yeah, I did it. I said she was going to do it to them tomorrow. I said, he's crazy. She's like, he's not crazy. I said, okay, you crazy too. But because I was thinking about, so hold up, you a little weird too.
Right.
She said, no, I can hear him. I feel him. I said, okay, just got a little crazy. But the thing was, when I started to investigate what she meant more so, I said, wow, he probably, well, to me, as I got older, I said, you know what, that man wasn't. There was something that he wanted to get out more so. What are your views on people? Because I've had that experience. I'm talking to somebody at a bench, and and I'm thinking he's talking to me the whole time. It's like, I was like, how you doing? Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I said it the other day. Oh, you ain't talking to me. So it sounds funny, but it's something serious there. What are your views on people who talk to themselves outwardly?
Sure. So I go to Morgan State. So that's in Baltimore.
Okay.
So a lot of times in Baltimore you see
more?
Yeah.
I'm not even familiar when I said it. I like doing. No, I like doing that. I really do. I'm not from there. I was like, be more.
No, why not? So going to Morgan, you do see a lot of people that talk to themselves outwardly.
Morgan State?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going there.
No, it's a great school though. It's awesome. I love it. I met you. We all the best. But so being a student there, when I first got to Morgan, I was like, what's going on with him? Like, why did they let him on the campus? But then as I got older, and I have a lot of psychology majors who are friends of mine, and they're like, well, there's just something wrong with them, and they didn't really have I don't want to say love and compassion combats it, but just they didn't really have anybody to be there with them to help them before they got to that point.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So just knowing that is kind of like just helps me know that I need to be there for people, even people who don't say that there's something going on with them, just being there with them in general. So seeing that and then seeing these people on the street, I try to at least help them out, give them a snack if they are homeless, so to speak, or just be like, hey man, how's it going? You know, just talk to them, let them know that they have a friend, even though I don't know them.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree with that because I think it all comes down to like, not even just with people that talk to themselves or have mental illnesses or whatever, like just talking in general. It's easy to walk by somebody. How easy is it to communicate with somebody that you do or do not know?
Right.
So when you do say hi or you do extend a handout, or if you're like to anybody, it goes a long way. You don't know what that person is going through mentally, physically, whatever. So it's like, how many people on this, like how many times are you driving and you come to a stop and somebody walks up to your car and just like, not even asking, like more than half the time asking for money, but sometimes just like waving or something like that.
Yeah.
And you either roll the window up or I'll inch up a little bit. And I'm just like, but I mean, it goes a long way to like when you think about it at the end of the day, because you could be in that scenario.
Yes, you
and
can.
then what would happen?
Very
How would you
quickly.
feel if
Very
like somebody would
quickly.
just walk by you? Or so you never know. So but somebody in that mental capacity, I feel like that ignoring it or putting it, I guess in the back of your mind worsens it. And it's so much easier for people nowadays to ignore a problem than it is to try to be a solution to it or try to solve it. So I think it's definitely important.
That's a great one.
Yeah, and if I could add, I feel like we feel like we're so much better than people. So like we see that person, it's like, nah. Like there's something wrong with them. And like what you said about not like turning them away, like speaking to them. People do that to us every day.
Every day.
But we feel like that person over there who's speaking outwardly is, you know, something wrong with them. So we're not even going to treat them as a person.
Right.
We're going to treat them as they're lesser than us. So we're going to move away from them. We're going to get scared when they come around. And that's just for me. This issue is very near and dear to me personally, and then also professionally. Mental health in general. I went to school for health.
Right.
So that's one of the issues. Is we're so wrapped up in ourselves that when someone else comes along, we start to subtract from them if it doesn't fit what we deem to be suitable, credible, you know, good versus bad, whatever. And we miss the mark so many times just in day out situations.
Wow, I like that. It reminds me how when Jesus walked up to the man with the lunatic spirit, you know, he was like just going off, you know, and it didn't have too much with just the demonic part of it, but it was something mental going on. But it was the fact that he knew what to talk to, you know, and a lot of people actually, because it says he was in the cave, you know, scratching himself. And we see that today. You know, people talking to themselves, scratching themselves, you know, abusing themselves. But he went up to him just to let him know, listen, I'm here, you know. And so I'm saying this to say that you mentioned about, and Cherie was talking about it too, in reference to like it starts young, you know. If the child is not getting love or support, they're going to wind up finding that imaginary friend. That imaginary friend's going to go with them all throughout time, you know. And they'll hide this imaginary friend getting married, you know, having kids and all types of stuff. And then all of a sudden, you know, she said, you know, and Tommy and Charles was blow up the building. You know, where did that come from? It came from something that was sown, more so in the child. So I do believe that what you guys are saying in reference to the love and support, you know, if that's there, then most of the times people can say, okay, I'm cool. I have somebody to go to, you know. So when it comes to your own peers, more so, do you feel, so what's the difference between oppression and depression? Because there is a difference. What's the difference, Steve?
I think on the surface, oppression happens to you from outside forces. And the depression, even though it might come from like you detailed your brother, that came from something outside of himself, from the female he was dealing with. But it's kind of like you internalize it and then you almost feed it. Typically, nobody feeds oppression. We try to get away from it. So that's, to me, just off the bat, is the difference, at least on the surface.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say depression doesn't necessarily have a cause. Like, sometimes things happen to you and you'll be depressed, but a lot of times mental illness, it just, just something happens and you don't even realize it happens, and all of a sudden there's a change in some of your friends or your peers or whatever. Whereas oppression is something that you see, like you physically know what's happening to you. You're aware, you're conscious of what's going on and why you're feeling this way because of that.
I agree with that, because depression is something that, like, you can go and sit there and just, something will happen and, like he said, you can sit there and be depressed, or you can tell yourself you're depressed. But I feel like depression is also, how can I put it, like, I can sit here right now and tell you I'm depressed and you won't see that. Whereas, like he said, oppression may come from the outside forces or whatever. It's more, I guess, visible in a sense, in a way for everybody to see. So depression, I could be going through X, Y, and Z right now and you wouldn't even know.
Well, let me say this. Depression is not visible all the time. Neither is oppression. Mm-hmm. Because, okay, for instance, I knew a friend named Keith, buddy named Keith. I thought he was cool, It can be visible, you're right. It can be visible only if the people are watching carefully. The reason why I say that is because every day, he called me, yo, B, what's up? And I'm like, no, chilling. And he would always say, I would say, what you watching? Like, all the show, whatever, and stuff like that. And one day he's watching this show where people would actually kill themselves. They would actually off themselves. And I was like, yo, what's up with that? And then, I'll find, he was reading books on, death and stuff like that. I was like, what's up with him? He a little spooky. But, yeah, I was scared. So I was like, yo, you good? He was like, yeah, I'm good, man. One day we're going to see Jesus. I was like, I'm not seeing him now. But, listen. So the thing was, I was like, something's not right. So I saw little signs, but ignored it because he was my buddy. You know what I mean? So the fact that no one kept an eye on it, I didn't keep an eye on it, all of a sudden one day he just killed himself. He was drinking and real heavy, So all this time he had letters, like books of letters, more so, saying, I lost this, I lost this, I lost this, I lost this, I lost this. All the stuff that he lost, he wrote something about it. But it was like, I would say almost like 200 things. So I didn't see it, I didn't see that there was an issue wrong, more so. But you said more so in reference to, like, people should watch, or I think if you're watching, like, for instance, we go back to the child. If we're watching the child, we can see what's going to happen or what's going on with the child. Yeah. So it can be not seen, but if we're watching, we can see it. So.
For me, a lot of it comes down to conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
So we be conditioned to, like, avoid.
Right.
We be conditioned to be in fear. So when someone goes through that, we're not in tune. The average person is not in tune with what depression looks like. Let's be honest. Yeah. Not everybody has a PhD in it.
This is true.
Not everybody even cares.
Right.
So that's, like, at the root is where it kind of, like, we're not in tune with what someone else is going through because we don't have time, we're distracted, we have our lives going on. And where we're at now is, like, there's so many people who do have a mental health issue, but because, like, you mentioned depression, skipping the gym multiple days a week because it's too crowded at 6 o'clock can be mental health. It's like autism, ADHD, these are, like, the big things. So people shine a light on them. But most people have some type of mental health issue going on.
Yeah.
But it's not glorified because they themselves cover it up, and then, we're just taught on a bigger scale to cover things up and keep moving forward.
I was also going to say, like you said before, we're also very private people. So because we're very private people, we also don't want to ask. We be like, nah, that's not my business. Like, I mean, he didn't come to class today, but that's not my business. Whatever he's going through is what he's going through. So like you said, like, it's just simple, like, small signs that you said you see that when you see that, you need to reach out, to your friends, like, hey, like, you're okay, like, what's going on? Like, I'm here if you need help, Yeah.
Well, I actually like those points. We're going to go to a quick break. Hey, welcome back to the program, guys. So we're winding down to the ending. So I wanted to ask you guys a question, and it's all for the three of you. Have you guys seen the movie Split?
Yes.
You seen the movie?
I have not.
You have not?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I still got to ask you. So, as you know, the gentleman had about how many personalities? About yeah, it was like.
Y'all about to ruin the movie for me.
Oh, am I? Oh.
Just playing with you, man.
Now you can go home and watch it. Now will intrigue you to watch it.
Oh, okay.
Nah, I'm just messing.
All right, okay. But you still should see it.
I gotta see it.
It's awesome. I was in movies like, oh my gosh, who he today? You know, it was just, I love movies like that. So, if you could actually, sit down with this gentleman more so, he was out there. You know, there was some things going on. I think he was a nun or, he was multiple people. You know,
Yeah, it was
a child, a little girl, and you know, a old British woman, and it was so quickly that he went to different personalities. But if you can sit down with this young man more so and actually say something to him, what would it be more so? You being on the not the couch, but he's on the couch. You know, what would it be? Now, mind you, he has over 24 personalities, so you don't know who you getting more so. What would you just say?
Say to him in terms of what? Like, would I just be having a conversation, or just be?
All right, for instance, he may say, "My name is Milda. You know, I came from something. You know, and you know, then all of a sudden, like, I'm a little boy. You know, and you're actually sitting there. You know, like, okay, no, what would you say?
That's tough because I feel like that is like a different case of a mental illness. So I wouldn't, I guess, know what to say. Whereas, like when you asked Will, what would he say to Robin? Well, I don't know what I would say to Robin Williams. Robin Williams was in Jumanji. What would I say to a man that had like all that and like didn't know he was going through all that? So for somebody that has these multiple personalities, I feel like I'd just be at like in terms of loss of like, okay, there was an episode of Law and Order SVU where some woman called like SVU and was like, "Oh, somebody did something to my daughter." Then it was her that did something to her. Like she had multiple personality disorder too, and so I know like the cops were just like, "I don't know how we solve this," because one second we're asking her like, "What happened to your daughter?" The next minute we're like, "Why are you doing this to your daughter?" You know. So I don't know.
Okay.
That's a weird.
I think personally, I would just have a regular conversation.
Yeah.
How's your day? Like,
All 24 of you.
How was your day in her perspective? Like, I don't really know. You're not the same. Like I've never really been in that situation, but I think I would just regularly try to get to know all 55 of them. You know, I would just have a whole team of friends in one person.
Well, I mean,
How was your day?
what capacity am I there? Am I there to like try to heal this person?
You're trying to just hear it. Yeah, heal.
Yeah, because some people, that's out of I don't have the authority to do that. I'm not able to do that.
Right.
And like that's off the bat. So honestly, me, because I've had a few cases where the person was pretty severely ill, and you kind of just go with it. Like if he starts talking like a British woman, I'm gonna sit there and ask him questions as he is that British woman, you know, and just try to have a good vibe. Like,
Right.
you know, some people, we don't have the ability to, you know, we're limited.
Right. Now, the reason why I asked you that is because you guys I wanted to hear the honest answer. And the honest answer was, I don't know. And, you know, I don't, because I think what happens is with even just cases like that, I was told that we know nothing of everything. You know, even doctors, you know, they're still studying to find certain cures to certain things on the human mind, or, you know, AIDS or whatever, or a cancer, you know, for instance. That's like really plaguing. And so they're still trying to find things because they don't know, you know. And I want to say thank you for giving that honest answer, because most people are like, oh, I know. What you do is, but I like your answer, though. I talk to all of them, you know, and most of you said that. I talk to all of them. So, because that's probably something I do. And then when they start going to the 5th person, I'm like, okay, I'm a little tired, but that's enough to y'all. But
Plug my toaster.
yeah, like a lot of y'all, yeah, like I want to. No, that's a lot. I got my own personality, so I'm gonna, But I want to thank you for the honest answer. So listen, we're gonna wrap up. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Culture. We'll be right back with the final thought, you guys. Welcome back to the Culture, you guys. Listen. So, I want to thank Will Torre, and Robert Wood in the third, right? The third, and Vaughn Lee. So they were actually a part of this mental health segment. So listen, I'm going to go to my. They laughing at me. I'm going to I'm going to go to my final thought. I'm rushing to get out of here. All right. So my final thought is tomorrow. It's tomorrow. Tomorrow's never promised, but if you do have it tomorrow, get dressed and go to work. Welcome back to the station.
Yeah.
We mix our culture with the kingdom.
Yeah, man. It's that new summertime anthem right here. This how we do for the kingdom.
Now we more swagged out, bossed out, now the men get the devil out.
Start this nonsense. Let's go.
We mix our culture with the kingdom. 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 Mix it. Mix it. Mix it. Mix it. We mix our culture with the kingdom. We mix our culture with the kingdom.
Yeah, made new, done with the old. I'm a walking lyrical scroll. No manuscript, this a godly script. I see sheep killed by soul.